But Tears for Democracy, an MSNBC host, cried on air when recounting January 6th on the anniversary over the weekend. I want you to watch this clip and we will discuss the tears shed for the American democracy.
For known, I'm going to try to get through this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Me too.
For what you did 3 years ago today. Please tell me your thoughts on this third anniversary.
We are still in the midst of the same fight that began on January 6th, 2021.
All right, we don't need to watch that whole thing because what that guy said is not as funny as the dude crying. But I think that's Jonathan Capehart on MSNBC literally getting out a tissue and crying into the tissue because of just the horrific events. Now, I don't think January 6th was a good thing. Maybe some of you do. I don't. I think there is a lot of nuance to what happened on that day, as we're finding, as more and more footage apparently still is coming out 3 years later, which is insane. But the people that were bashing in windows with rocks and beating cops with flagpoles, nobody thinks that that is a good thing at all. And also, there were people that were being ushered in and around the Capitol by police officers and Capitol staff and just got to go wherever they wanted to go. So what the heck is going on there? The bottom line, though, is the emotional component that exists in so much of lefty politics. Now, I don't know if this is legit and he's actually crying and those are real tears, or if he's putting on an act, both of which are a problem. Either he actually feels this strongly about something, but apparently didn't when a bunch of blue cities were on fire during the BLM riots, and apparently didn't during all of the tyrannical control that the government sucked up during COVID, after COVID, and up until this point. But this particular instance is jerking tears. Or it's not legit and it's an act, which is also a problem because that would mean the host and probably the producers assume that the viewers feel so strongly that they're caught up and they want to be empathetic, so they're getting their host to choke up in tears. The problem is, when you have this much emotion invested in politics, bad things happen. There was a podcast that I was listening to that talked about what would happen if the two sides, the left and the right, went to a civil war. Is a tough term because there really can't, just considering the geography of where, quote unquote, the left and the right are, which is intermixed across the entire country, the idea of a second civil war it's a weird, it would be difficult to pull off just from a geographical standpoint. But in terms of the sides fighting each other, you have to ask yourself, who would be the first to violence? Well, probably the more emotional people. Isn't that usually how it works? Generally, when somebody's fighting or a couple is fighting or friends are fighting, the more emotional person is the first one to blows, God forbid it comes to that. But the idea that a left versus right is to claim, as I have, and I still am not entirely sure that I think this entirely, but to claim, well, we have all the guns and we have all the tough men and the weaponry and all of the things, has to come under the assumption that we would do something with that if physical violence, which I don't want to happen, were to ever break out. The other side of that, though, is, well, the people that are so emotional about their political causes, generally speaking, are the ones to act first, which worries me. Again, this is not a call. I do not want anyone to be violent anywhere around this country because of their political ideas. But if it does happen, it's usually the people that are exerting as much emotion as seen here on MSNBC